So this is a summary of the build of the 77 Range Rover Classic. Started in, well, when we first bought it in 1986, rebuilt in 1988, sold in 1998, repurchased in 2012. I'd like to thank some people for this. Murray, House of Ducati Carla, for pushing me to do it, my kids for pushing me to do it, and my wife for allowing me to do it. And thanks also to Mike Norman, Pedro the Swift, Merc Guy, Double Chevron, and various others from the Old Row Land Rover Club that have prompted and pushed me throughout the years to complete the car. Thanks must also go to Shane at Yandina Paint and Panel for the paint and panel, to Sunstate Diff and Gearbox for the gearbox, Nev at Noosa Mobile Mechanics for his general help and lend of his trade plates as required, myself of course for doing a fair bit of it, Con at Noosa Auto and Marine Upholstery for doing the trim, the interior trim. The basics of the car are, we've kept the original body shape, original engine, original gearbox, original drivetrain untouched. As in, they're all original, however they've all been repaired or modified or made to last. With the engine, it's the original 3.5 litre that has a good set of heads that were originally done by Ron Richards from East Coast Engine Developments in Brisbane back in the late 80s. He's put big valves in them, good single springs, flowed and ported the heads. He did a nice job with those. It's got now running 9.75 to 1 pistons, 20 thou oversize, with Cloy's True Roller timing chain to a Crow 50230 camshaft. From the camshaft, it runs the Yalaterra YT 6000 shaft roller rockers. The inlet manifold is an Edelbrock Performer with an Edelbrock 500 CFM carburetor. We're running ARP rod bolts, ARP header bolts, and ARP inlet manifold bolts. All the wiring has been semi-recessed or hidden, and much thanks must go to Tristan at Scope Auto Electrical, who did all the electrical work. The distributor is an original, but recurved by Performance Ignition in Nuttawading, who did it in 1988 with a Piranha pointless ignition, and have redone it this time with the Petronix Igniter 1. It's running MSD plug leads, and we run through to an MSD firewall feed through, so the coil is inside the cab. Keep it out of harm's way. We're running the original style power steering reservoir, but the later 4-bolt power steering. It's got the later 3.9 radiator with twin electric fans, one of which is a dual speed, running from a Hayden controller. The AC is an original but new old stock York, which they don't fail much. I didn't realise it draws a bit of power, but it's what was always in the car, and I had the ability to get a brand new one, so it was fitted. While we're in the engine bay, the washer motors have all been relocated inside, out of where they always used to catch the dirt and rust and cause all sorts of trouble there. Under the bonnet is fitted with the Car Builder under bonnet sound deadener, and that is a really nice product. On this side, the master cylinder for the clutch is an aftermarket OEM, but a very good quality one. The brakes, the master cylinder, it was re-sleeved, stainless sleeving with a rebuild kit through there, with new brake lines as required throughout. The charcoal canister is working, it's been refilled and still connected up and works a treat. And of course the radiator overflow, all looking good. So if we come round, it's The car, when we bought it in 1986, had this TJM nudge bar. It's not a bull bar, it's just a nudge bar, aluminium. I've kept it because it's always been on the car and it's part of its history. So we retained it. Of course, this running with the vintage air condenser and all new horns, etc. It's running Hella H4 headlights with all new lenses in all of the lights all the way around the vehicle. Tyres, to keep in keeping with the nature of the car, they're Michelin Latitude Cross 235/70 R16 with the later 3-spoke tubeless rims. And I'm running DBA slotted and drilled and vented front rotors with Mintex pads, with all the calipers completely rebuilt with stainless steel pistons. Suspension is, thanks to Famous 4, is running the -1 inch springs with Bilston B6 dampers all the way around. Every bush in the car is new. Every ball joint is new, including the A-frame. It does not have the Boge leveler because I could not find a good one there. And that's the gold passivated DBA rotors. I have the original front valance on the car. Every panel, every metal panel was blasted, primed, edge primed, and it's been coated in a 2PK paint with the colour of the car is in Fuji white, with the bumpers are in Land Rover Chorus Grey. I've put this here. If we look under the car, everything has been P-clipped or riv nuts used. I've also fitted the exhaust. It's a very nice exhaust with a naughty switch for the electric powered exhaust override. This is on the passenger side. The seats are the original two-door seats that were originally modified in 1988 by Alan Swampy Marsh. He put the side bolsters and extensions, but we've updated them a bit this time, or Con did, with the retrimming, some extra side bolsters, of course new squabs, new seat belts, and the door trim. We've had to remove the rear handles because they clash with the side bolsters being a little thicker. It has the new surround rubbers. Thank you again to Andy at Famous 4. And to the rear, to the tailgate, we have the aluminium frame for the upper tailgate. The rear lower is a later model tailgate because the originals were rusted out, so we put I found the best condition tailgate we could and fitted that. The rear floor was the original aluminium, however that's been blasted, etch primed and then painted in a nice silver, but of course you can't see it now, it's underneath all the carpet and the infill, of which we still have. The rear seat was fully rebuilt and also done in the white. I was able to find a good headlining, which is hard, and this was retrimmed in a modern fabric by Con. We're at the stage now, we're almost complete. I have some parts stuck in Queensland, I can't get through COVID, but we've got all of the jacks, handles and things. I just can't quite access them to install them. It's running the Brown Davis 130 litre fuel tank that we bought back in 1994 when the original tank rusted out. But that one is still in mint condition, so it's being reused. The gearbox was rebuilt by Sunstate Different Gearbox. Of course, all the drive shafts are new unis. There's new wheel bearings on every wheel. The front ball hubs were replaced and the uppers and lowers were done. There is no, the CV joints were all good though, so they're untouched, and the diffs are working, so they're again untouched. All of those are items that if you ever have to work on them again, they're still easy to access and they don't detract from the overall car. There's new Bailey channel in every door, every window. And in keeping with what we'd fitted a Momo steering wheel. And there's the rear seat. Original rear seat, but retrimmed to replicate what's on the fronts. And made it for 2 rather than 3. The instrument panel, we've discussed before, is the Dakota Digital, a modern unit, and we're running a modern stereo, all recessed in there with decent focal splits up front, with an under-seat Pioneer sub, and in the rear, hiding in the rear, is actually some home Cambridge Audio Minx satellite speakers, which work just fine. I do have a carpet for the rear tailgate, however due to COVID it's a bit hard to get people at the moment to fit it. If you can hear it, that's the Kensley clock ticking away, working, and everything in the car works. I'm just going to come round, drop the bonnet. Much of the chrome that you can see was done in 1988. And the fact that it's lasted this long and is in that good condition shows how suitable chroming was for something that saw a lot of beach service. The wheel nuts on this time, I've got them all chromed as well, because in the paint they always used to rust and discolour. I will, before we do, I'll have a look under the driver's side. This is a vehicle I think you could honestly jump in and drive across Australia in it, and it would not give you any drama. So again, every bolt, you're struggling to find a second-hand bolt in this car. Everyone's new or stainless. If it needed fixing or replacing, it was. Rear is a Cardiff 4070 running AN air equipped fittings connected. Now let's just run through the things here that work. Horn, lights of course, front washers of course, wipers of course, these were rebuilt. If you go to the rear, There's the bit hard to see in this light, but the light is on there for the rear window demist. And this is my vintage air AC unit, which on low, that's the compressor just clutched in. Original ashtray. This was the center console cubby that was in the car when we bought it. Of course, retrimmed. We've kept it. It's nice and big. I've got an original, genuine one, but it's not as in as good condition. And this is in keeping with what we bought the car for. So, oh, and this is the naughty switch, because if I open that, close it. Everything's been done. The steering shaft column shimmed, no rattles. If I look here, if I scroll through this modern dash, it gives you compass, because I have the GPS, clock, altimeter, trip computers, maximum speeds, not very fast at the moment because of the lockdown, minimum speeds, current idle, and high RPM, which is all what we hit the other day, 6360. I think we'd hit 65, but we ran out of road. So she goes okay. And that's the oil temperature running there. And that sums up what was an 8-year build. Normal 2-door bouncers, or of course all new door rubbers. That's water vapor out the rear. The car is cold, and it's been quite cold here. And I'd like to thank you all for your following and your comments.